If your goal is to stay in the United States after your degree, you need a different type of visa other than the F1 visa that you have. And in this video, I'm going to go into a realistic timeline to go from being an F1 student to being a permanent resident, aka green card holder in America. And I'm also going to go into details of different routes that you can take and the time that it's going to cost for you to go from that category of being a non-immigrant to being a green card holder. And towards the end, I'm going to talk about the easiest route and what I would advise that you do if you're an F1 student or a student on J visa that is currently watching this video, an ideal path that you can take to get to that point if your goal is to stay in the country after your degree or after your postdoc or whatever it is that you're doing right now. What you probably have right now is an F1 or a J visa, which is a non-immigrant visa. If you intend to stay in the country for a longer duration of time, you need either a dual intent visa, which is basically a visa that is saying, even though I'm on a non-immigrant visa right now, I have an intention of staying here permanently. That's a dual intent visa. An example of which would be like H-1B visa or O visa, something like that, even L-1 visa, something like that. And aside from that, if you cannot get your hands on a dual intent visa, then you need a true immigrant visa. An example of which would be like the e-visa, employment-based sponsored immigrant visa. But I'm gonna go through like each of those category or the routes that you can take to get to green card. There are so many ways, okay? There are so many paths that you can take to get to that final destination. But for the purpose of brevity and for because I know the people that are watching this video, they are here on a non-immigrant visa and they are either students or scholars that are doing postdoc. I'm going to talk about the three main ways, okay, for you to go from your current status to being a green card. The first one of which is what I probably consider like the easiest, is through the marriage route. So America is funny in such a way that if you're married to an American, like a US citizen, it, I mean, it makes sense that they want you to stay because you're trying to build a life with the person that you're married to. So if your spouse is an American, there's a clear path to go from whatever type of visa that you came in on to go from that point to being a green card holder and eventually to become an American citizen if you want that. And the typical duration for that process, right from like when you file to the point where you have your green card, can be as short as 6 months or as long as 2 years, depending on number one, where you're located, number two, how complicated your case is, and some other time, luck. And based on my experience, because I got my green card through marriage, my wife is an American. It took us about a year for the entire process to go through, but we were also strategic in the process because the process is complicated a little bit. Complicated in the sense of timing, not in the sense of the documents required to get your green card. It's complicated in the sense of timing, in the sense that if you get married today and apply today, which you're eligible to do so, and you get approved for the green card before your marriage clocks its 2 years anniversary, you're going to get a temporary green card, which is also called a conditional green card, where you get 2 years on that green card, and then when it expires, you have to renew or you have to remove the condition on that green card. Because we knew the paperwork that is involved in like filing and then removing the condition, we waited for a year after getting married before applying, hoping that it's also going to take USCIS another year before adjudicating the case. And by the time they think of approving our case, we're going to would have celebrated our 2 years anniversary. And so therefore we'll not have to remove any condition because we'll get the 10 years green card like that. And it worked out quite well for us. The good thing about the marriage route is that once you file your petition, you can do what is known as concurrent filing. And what this means is that you can submit the petition that your spouse is submitting for you. You can also submit your adjustment of status, and you can also apply for work authorization and travel documents. Because over the last 1 year or so, USCIS has designed the process to allow you to just submit some of the documents online so you can get approval for work authorization and travel documents very fast. Some people get it in like a month or less, or 2 months or whatever. Either ways, you're going to get your work authorization and travel permits, and that allows you to work in the country. That is to give you an idea of like how fast the process is. You can file your petition today and get work authorization in like 3 months. And if you're lucky, get green card in 6 months, or it can be as long as 2 years. That is if you're in a marriage, a legal marriage to an American citizen, and it is not done purposely for the benefit of immigration. There's a whole can worm around that. I'm not going to go into that in this video. Maybe one of these days I'm going to make a video about my experience navigating that process, and some common pitfalls, and how people end up in trouble because they're trying to play the system. Okay. Now, that's the first and easiest route. If you are in a relationship with an American, if you're in a serious relationship with an American, and you see the person as someone that you can spend the rest of your life with, I don't think it's a terrible idea. But also remember that marriage is for life. If you get the green card, and you think you're gonna get rid of the person, you're gonna be in trouble. Okay, the second route, this one is kind of popular amidst scholars. Think of people that are getting postdoc or PhD or graduate degree, and it is called the self-petition. I consider it the second easiest route because you don't need anybody to sponsor you. You can gather your documents, and if you can prove successfully to USCIS that your continued stay in this country is going to be beneficial to the country, then they can approve you for a green card, and then you get to stay permanently. And then after 5 years of having your green card, you can apply for citizenship. Now, the caveat to this, in the past, really, you can do concurrent filing if you're doing a self-petition through the National Interest Waiver Program, or like the EB category of visa. I have like 3 videos on that subject already, so I'm going to link it in the description. You can go and watch for more context. But the pitfall for this particular category is that there's no concurrent filing anymore. What this means is that you have to first petition for USCIS to allow you to stay, and then when they approve your petition, you can move ahead with adjustment of status. What this means is that the process can last between 1 year to 2 years. It's kind of long. And especially since there are so many backlogs now, you have to wait. Even when your petition has been approved, you have to wait for your date to be current before you can file for adjustment of status. And in the true sense of it, if you have an approved petition, you're almost like 80% of the way there. So let's say a decent timeline is going to be 1 year, 1 to 1.5 years of waiting before you get your green card, basically, if you've done everything right. Now, the process of filing for that green card requires the burden of proof is on you to show that you're a valuable member of the society, to show that your continued stay is going to benefit the country, to show that you're a resource person in your field of interest. Again, I have so many videos about that. You can check around to see like some of the detailed video that I have on that subject. Now, the last but not the least is through what I call the H-1B visa route. This is probably like my least favorite path to get to green card because it depends on so many things. And if you're in America right now, you know there are so like massive layoff left and right. It's just not encouraging. But if that's the path that you're on, it is what it is. There's nothing that you can do about it. But the H-1B route, aside from it depending on your employer, considering you like an asset and trying to help you stay, it's also the longest route. But the good thing about it is that while you're waiting, while you're trying to get your green card, you're on a dual intent visa that allows you to live and work for a decent amount of time before your case get approved. The only downside is that you definitely want to stick to one employer all through the process until you get your green card, which means your option of changing jobs is very limited. As a matter of fact, you don't want to do that while you're waiting to get your green card approved, because the process relies on your employer, number one, filing H-1B for you, which is a work visa, And then it also depends on them getting a labor certification that shows that the job that you're doing, you're the most qualified person to do it, and they couldn't find an American to do it. And you're not taking jobs away from Americans. And then once you get labor certification, they submit the document, then it goes through the entire immigration pipeline. And then once you get approved, you become a green card holder, and then you can leave the company if you want. That is the path for the H-1B visa process. So those are the three main paths to getting a green card, to going from F1, being an F1 student, to being a green card holder in the United States. Each of them, they have their benefits and their downside. And obviously, you want to explore the best option for you. And while you're going through any of this process, always make sure that you're in a current status, because it becomes a bit more complicated if you go out of status. What this means is that if your visa expires and then you're not on any type of like visa or a visa extension, or you're not in school, if you're on F1 student visa and your visa expired, but you're still in school, you're still fine. But if you're not in school, your visa expires, you're not on like any form of work authorization or a dual intent visa, then your process becomes difficult, because more often than not, except you're married to an American, if you run out of status, you would have to go outside of the country and come back and come and apply for adjustment of status before you can come back in. And that can be a very difficult thing to do. So you want to make sure that your visa or your status is active, is current, you're not out of status. And the easiest way to do that is, number one, is either you go back to school if you've exhausted your OPT or your STEM OPT, or you go through the H1B route where you're working, you're on a work visa while you're trying to do adjustment of status. So those are the three main routes that I consider an ideal way to go from F1 visa to green card. There are so many people that have done this. You're not going to be the first person or the last that's going to do it. The most important thing is for you to research the best option for you and work on that in a way that it fits into your timeline. And what this means is that from day one that you get into this country, you want to start thinking about those things. You want to start exploring your options. If you're going to go through the marriage route, you want to start dating intentionally, you know? You want to start putting effort into the process of dating. I can make a whole video about that. But I got lucky in my case. But anyway, go through like the NIW path. You're going to start writing papers, making sure that your name is featured on papers if you're in the science field, contributing significantly to your field. And if you're going to go through the H1B route, you want to make sure that you have internship during like your school year, you get a job with a company that is willing to sponsor you, and you put in your best foot to make sure that they see you as someone that is worth going through all of that difficult process for. But that's all I have for you in this video. If you have any other thing that you've gone through or that you'd like clarity on as far as this process is concerned, do not forget to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll do my best to address those comments. But I'll see you in the next video.